Hello, hello, my beautiful friends. It's Izabela Lundberg here, the World Messenger, and I have a very special guest that is dear to my heart to join me from Berlin, Germany. I have Ara or Aravinth Panch join me. He is the founder, co-founder, and guardian of Guardians from Dream Academy. He's originally from Sri Lanka, phenomenal human being that is creating so much impact around the world and definitely in his home country. But more than anything, he's phenomenal artificial intelligence analyst, data stats, and everything under sun that you can think about it that every business needs. Has tremendous expertise, and matter of fact, I will let him to introduce himself because I'm sure he will do a way better job. But I'm just again super thrilled to have Ara here. Ara, welcome. How are you?
Thank you, Isabella, and thank you for the introduction. And it's a good day, and I hope that we have audience from all around the world. So it's a little bit it's evening for me, and I hope others are having good day as well. Yeah, maybe I can tell a little bit more about you have given some technical introduction, you have given some social introduction, and
Yes.
yeah, so we can go with the interest of the audience.
Yes, and it will be fantastic if you don't mind just sharing a little bit about your background because you and I have so much in common, even though we were born and raised in very different parts of the world. And guys, I wanted you to really hear out Ara's powerful story. How it was for him to grow up in Sri Lanka, and what was some pivotal moments in his life before he moved to Germany, to Berlin in Germany.
Yeah, I mean, sure. So my life, my story has two parts. So one of that, when people ask, Sarah, what are you? So what do you do? And I have two focus, two verticals. One of that is social entrepreneurship, which is based on my life experience and stories and my personal things that happen in my life. And then I have technical entrepreneurship, tech entrepreneurship that I have parallelly developed. So I think we can today talk much about the social aspect of my story, and then maybe another time we can talk like what these things behind me. And so
Sure, sure.
yeah.
Will be great to touch a little bit of technical in the end because I'm sure the
Mhm.
audience that we're having here, Alfred saying hello. Thank you, Alfred, for joining us. Marco is saying hello. Mohammed is saying hello. So we're having friends join us from Latin America, from Europe, and it seems like from the Middle East. So it's fantastic. Thank you, guys. We're looking forward to your comments and questions as we progress with our conversation. So Sri Lanka, tell us what was happening years ago and what is happening currently, please.
Yes, sure. I hope like a lot of people is probably might heard about this country, and because one time I remember there was an American doctor who actually went to Sri Lanka to give some advices, and he said that till the time that flight was about to land, he was just seeing, okay, where is going to land? It's water everywhere, and he didn't know it's an island. so, so it's an island in the middle of Indian Ocean. So we are, straight direct connections, in the water. You can say Indonesia, Singapore, and Australia, and all the side, on the side India, and then another big sea in the Bay of Bengal. Pretty big. Maybe it's a small country for that region, but it's a bigger island, around 65,000 square kilometer island. It's more of a tropical forest island. Has different climate and landscapes. It starts with the ocean, and then we have the dry and the paddy land, and then it goes to forest, and from there it gets jungle, and then up it goes to the mountains, and so on. So to give a little bit of on the political situation that happened in Sri Lanka, and it was a colony, English colony for last, I mean, 150 years of the colonization. Last 150 years of the colonization was English. Before that, there were the Portuguese and Dutch, different European countries tried to visit this place, and at the time it was called Emerald Island, and it's known for
Yeah.
its precious and semi-precious stones and spices, and very wealthy at the time. And as you know, the typical story of the colonies coming to an end, and there were different diverse ethnic groups in this country, majorly Sinhalese people speaking a language, Sinhala, and they are majorly Buddhist, majorly Buddhist people, and then we have small pockets of minorities around 8-9% of Hindus and 8-9% of Muslims and Christians, and then still some descendants of Dutch and English people. We call basically burger people. They are burgers. They're called as burgers, and so that's the ethnic diversity. So as a national language, we have English and Sinhala and Tamil. So the minority people speak Tamil. The majority speak Sinhala. Tamil. So coming back to our ethnic identity, so Tamil is the oldest living language of the Indian language root, and mostly like the literature that we study is more than 2,500 to 2,500, yeah, 2,500 to 3,000 years old literature. So it's the one of the oldest living language, and it's as spoken as a native language in several countries in Southeast Asia, because there was a dynasty that was existing from south of India till Papua, Indonesia. So that language was, the whole community was spread, and so it's like national language in India and Sri Lanka and Singapore and in many other places in that whole belt. So recent, maybe like going back in 30-40 years, and there was kind of a conflict between these majority and minority, typical situation all around the world. And then form of a civil war started in 80s, and this was the moment this many small groups of rebels were formed from the minority side, and then the government, the army on the majority side, and yeah, typical, like the same story, but though maybe a little bit different than the other place, because the war has gone, like it was extended almost for 30 years. So it started in 80s and ended in 2009. So it has been a huge devastation for the country, for the community, for the socio-economic, for the environmental, and everything is a big thing. So now we can a little bit go into I mean, now it's better. In 2009, the war ended, and now it's been more than 11 years, and a lot of peace building and reconciliation. We ourselves, my organization, we do a lot of peace building work so far, and then still, but I would say that it's a harmonious country, and it's everything is going pretty fine than how I grew up and I saw the country. So my story, maybe like my life started at the moment where my grandfather and several of my relatives, including brothers of my mother, were shot in 1986, and we were normal people, like it's collateral damage. So they died, and at that moment, a lot of people in our family left, migrated to neutral countries, as we have connection to Sweden, and so the neutral countries, then Scandinavia, Swiss, and several other English, mainly initial English-speaking countries, but they also went to other countries. So large majority of the Sri Lankan Tamil moved to Canada in 80s, and I think you might know the history that it's one of the biggest immigrant community in Canada, and then UK and other parts of the world. And why we didn't move, because my grandmother didn't actually want to leave, because she saw her husband and kids died, and his son died, another one was shot, and she decided not to leave the country. She wanted to just stay there. So because of that reason, my mother didn't, being a girl, she didn't want to leave the mother, and so we were born in Sri Lanka. Comparatively, my cousins, large majority of my cousins my age, were born in another country because their parents they migrated. So that's how being born as a war child in a war zone, and it's a different set of environment, because by the time I was a teenager, it's been 20 years of the war has already, it's gone. So challenges were.
So you experienced from early age the war and living in a war
Yes,
zone
yeah, I
before
was
you had a
born.
chance to escape.
Exactly. So I was born and grew up in a war zone. So it was not a new thing for me. It's a conflict zone. But when I was a teenager, yeah, one more thing I need to tell: we are more of a Sri Lankan Tamil, Eastern Sri Lankan Tamil people. There, we are more matriarchal society. So generally, it's a female dominant society. But because of the war, we didn't have much male in our society. Either they were killed as a collateral damage, and some people also went and fought in the war, as rebels, and also a lot of educated people left the country very very early in 80s. So even my dad, he saw me when I was 3 years old. So we are basically holiday kids, you know, and
But
so.
we'll come to visit.
Yeah, exactly. So many families, it was the same situation. Once in 3 4 years, they see their male. So we were, everything was functioning as purely matriarchal at that time. And so my brother, so the war was going on when my brother actually wanted to become. He was very, interested in medicine and doctor. He got into university in Sri Lanka to become, study there. But my father decided this place was in the center of the war zone. He decided to send him abroad, and he moved to Moscow to study in Moscow Medical Academy. My father was long gone, as well as I said. He was living in Saudi Arabia since 1981, so he lived in pretty much every Middle Eastern country, and working as an electrical engineer and architect, building cyber cities and stuff that you see in since for the last 40 years. And
that's fantastic. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
great accomplishment. But if you
yeah, I
don't
mean,
mind,
yeah.
but if you don't mind, just for audience that is watching and listening, this is such a powerful story and very impactful. But I just wanted to also quickly recap one thing, guys. What Ara is sharing is just something that is happening so much across the world, and it's fortunate for him to be so long in the war zone environment, to be born into war environment, but also a chance to really see what that looks like. And too many children right now, over 50% statistically globally, children are the refugees from total numbers of the refugees. And guess what? The number of total refugees, guys, is over 68 million people worldwide that fled their homes because of conflict, unrest, and obviously some of the disasters. Smaller percentages, obviously, from the ones from natural disasters, even though that is happening. And that's unfortunately how refugees are created, mostly because of conflict and upheaval and the wars. And we look at that every 30 minutes, or I'm sorry, every minute, 30 people are becoming displaced or becoming refugee. I just want to guys to put that in perspective. And
Yes.
if you don't mind just sharing, just because the magnitude and devastation is insanely high, specifically during current events. And as a former refugee myself, I just wanted to point out this is something that I really want you to take it to the heart and really listen and pay close attention, because it's very educational, but it's also very important because we cannot solve all the problems by our own, right, Ara? Please take it forward.
Exactly. I mean, that's we like very often we think that it's only happening to some small group of people, and maybe it's not happening now, but it's happening every day, even now. Like, even though we don't have that issue maybe in Sri Lanka, but it's happening in a lot of places around the world. Yeah. And as I said, yeah. So my story at that, I was 14 years old, still in Sri Lanka, and there was this thing: the longer the war, younger the soldier. So as I said, there was not much people in the society, and there was kind of a pressure to recruit child soldiers, and that's the moment my mother, and at the time me, my mother and sister were living in Sri Lanka, and my brother is already gone to Russia, and my father is in Saudi. And so we decided to leave. So basically at the time, that was the last call. There was nothing that we could do, and otherwise I would become a child soldier. So, and then that's the moment. Then the immediate the solution was that going to India, because that's nearby, and so we could go by flight, not by boat. So we went there, and then based from there, like I want to become always work in tech in engineering, science sector, and then and my sister wanted to become a doctor, so basically they sent my sister to Russia to my brother, and my mom. They left me in India, and my mom went to Saudi Arabia to my father.
How old are you
So
were at that time? Because you risk of being child soldier. I'm assuming you were less than 12-year-old probably at the time, right? How old
no,
were
I mean,
you?
when we left Sri Lanka, I was 14 years old.
14. Okay, so it was
Yeah,
close.
yeah,
And,
yeah.
and then you were as a 14 or 15 years old left in India on your own.
Yes. Yeah, I'm from 16. I was in India, and
Wow.
basically there was a gap, that period of time we stayed all three of us in India, and then that's how we decided to move to the next step. And so yeah, again, child's world war child to a child refugee, and but that time was also, and for me, the another thing that I always want to tell people, that people think that they left their war zone and they went to some other country, and they are
Everything is fine. But
refugees. Everything is fine. Yeah, exactly. The
and
reality
we
is
know
not
very
that.
well it's not. We
Yeah,
know the journey, we know the pain, we know assimilation, culturalization, languages, and
yeah,
starting all over again,
yeah,
from degrees to courses to whatever, and then moving and moving and moving, and you feel like you lived many lives in one lifetime, right?
yeah. Exactly. I mean, the problem was it's beyond that. I mean, a lot of countries, like if I have come to Germany at that age, and that's a different story, or any global north. India doesn't have any form of a system to accommodate refugees. And
Refugees.
this is one of the country that didn't sign in. I don't know if that's true now. In one from in UN, around 149 countries signed that they have an official system to accommodate, and India didn't have that. I don't know if they have it now. And so
I'm not
basically,
sure they do because they also have very strong social economic issues. So taking on more people, they're not able based on some of the data. But you're right.
yeah,
That you're
yeah.
not sure. Yes.
No, and mostly it was not of any reason. It's just uh, so basically the Indian government was also fueling the war in Sri Lanka, and also they have reasons not to support Sri Lankan refugees because
Specifically, the yes.
yeah,
Conflict
and
of
the
interest, right?
yeah, and yeah, exactly. Why? Because Sri Lanka is in the middle of Indian Ocean, and in the ancient time, even now, that from it has been a bridge between the east and the west, and the war started, and so India was becoming, so to say, superpower, and they also wanted the geopolitical dominance in that region. So there were China, there were Russia and America, and then some parts of the world were also influencing early days, and so India actually kind of triggered that. Okay, the whole issues, that how to be a geopolitically dominant there, and they tried to solve this problem in different ways in 1980s, and they sent some form of forces called IPKF, or like what Russia sent now to Armenia and Azerbaijan.
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
and or it happens all the time in history, and these forces were also involved in some of the things. Peacekeeping forces are never peacekeeping forces.
And,
And
and I
and
just want, if you don't mind, just want to interject here for a second. I totally see this pattern because I rehabilitate genocide, torture, war trauma, human trafficking, rape victims from over 120 countries. So now to put in perspective, we have 238 or 37 countries in the world. When you think about it, half of the world experience that, which is unbelievable. And the same thing, depending on political scenario and strategies they're playing and alliances and things that are shifting social, economically, politically, things are completely changing. And how magnitude of that not only produces refugees, but also produces all these interesting dynamics that just constantly are keep coming back.
exactly. I mean, it's a repetitive pattern everywhere, and because of that, what happened in 1987, the IPKF, Indian Peacekeeping Forces, was sent to Sri Lanka to change the situation, it became worse, and a lot of rebel they surrendered. The rebels surrendered, when then suddenly a lot of them were killed.
Mhm.
So we don't know the truth, but a lot of people know the truth on the ground. How this peacekeeping was used as a platform to make these people come, kneel down. And because of that, the rebels did a big mistake. They went to India. A small group of Sri Lanka is a tiny country in that region, and in that tiny country, a small minority of rebels went and actually assassinated the Prime Minister of India in 1991.
Wow.
So from that moment, so India was like, okay, now it's a different story. So I faced throughout my life in India this thing, basically
Discrimination,
as
did
a,
you say?
yeah, exactly, like as I did that, and as a child, I just fled the place. And so when we went
How was,
there
if you don't mind, how was to navigate that? Did you have any support system? I understand you didn't have your immediate family, but how did you survive? How did you navigate? I know you were crazy studying technology and trying to survive with learning and everything, but how did you survive emotionally and mentally at the level of feeling constantly targeted or in the fear? Because not only you were in the fear as a child in your own home country during conflict, but now you're in India and experiencing same situation, right?
yeah, for me it was war zone was better than being a refugee in any way at that moment. And
Um,
the thing is, I can tell you, I was a teenager, and the first year when we moved to India, we were thrown out by 9 house basically landlords, landladies, saying that we are dangerous people, and we are gonna, so many different reasons. And one landlady told me that sometimes they give the place, and in a week and or two,
take your
someone
money,
tells them
take your
something.
house, right?
Yeah, yeah, and someone tells them something, and then yeah, you can, so someone tells them something, and then they say come with the reason and ask us to leave. And one time it was very most funniest thing, and she told me, this landlady, that she's getting rent from me, and at the time war was going in Sri Lanka,
Uh-huh.
and I'm gonna just send a letter to the leader of the rebel, the LTT, that this lady in another country in Chennai in the city is taking a rent from me, and he's gonna send people to kidnap her, and because of that I have to leave the house. She's scared, you know.
Wow.
So
Wow.
it
So a
can go
lot of
now.
bias, a lot of prejudice, a lot of crazy scenarios. I can't even imagine. Wow.
Yeah. So that was like, even getting a place to stay, because they put us, the whole system put us as a ghost in the system, and we are not allowed to do anything. I was not allowed to go to school, and yeah, we are basically ghost in the system, not having any bank account, nothing, basically nothing. We cannot
Nothing
stay,
in
we
your
cannot.
name, nothing worthwhile. Yeah, because yeah,
Yeah.
you don't exist. You don't exist. But you were child labor, I'm assuming, in India in order to survive.
Yeah. So one thing, to answer your question, how I survive, but it's India. In India is like Italy in many ways. So
Italian mafia and Indian mafia. Tell us more.
yeah.
I'm
So
familiar with
in
Italian
India,
mafia situation. I mean, but anyway, go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah. So India and Italy, I mean, because of so basically the Congress party, Sonia Gandhi, she's Italian. If you know that, in India, she was the powerful woman. In India, she is Italian, basically. So that's why I make this fun joke. And the thing is, the system, how things work in India, it's not like in Germany. You can always find, way around things. So I found a way to go to a kind of a homeschool system, private, not going to school, but that kind of a homeschool system. So they had this system that you can have, declare yourself as homeschool, and then you can go to the public exam without being a part of any school. And
And based on exam, passed it on so you can go to college. Is that what was the premise of it?
no, yeah, I mean, lot of dropped out kids, they cannot go to school because they didn't have the attendance, and then they got dropped off, and they created these kind of it's called tutorial colleges in India. So you can go to kind of a tuition, and then you prepare, and then you apply for the public exam, and then you get, That's how I got into the systems. I when I left Sri Lanka, I finished my 8th grade, I think, and we have a different regulation. January to January is a school regulation in Sri Lanka. In India, it's June to June. So we also had the 6 month. We went exactly in December, so we had the 6 month for the next regulation, next school start. So basically, I was supposed to go to 9th grade in that year if I was allowed to go, but because of I took this education, like the courses, the public. Someone told me that, okay, after 9th grade, you have to do your 10th grade, which is a public exam. I said, okay, I have time, so I don't just study this 10th grade directly. And then I was just reading, it was simple for me. So in 1 month, I studied the whole 2 years, and then I went to this exam, and I passed this exam with 70%. I graduated. So from 8th grade, I went to 11th grade.
You jump started. Very smart kid. What can I say? And really shows and proves what you accomplish after that, which I can also wait for our audience to hear. So please.
Yes. So that's how I entered the system, and now I have a public exam, and it's official. And then with that, I can go to other schools and universities. But the struggle was always there. So every time you have to go from school to university, they didn't take me in university because I was, Sri Lankan, and then I have to find other ways, like, deemed universities, which don't come under the government and so on. And it went till my job. And even I got they were not in the university. They didn't allow me to participate in any competition, international, anything, anything that represents me in the university. They just want to keep me as a ghost. So my 10 years of my life in India was pretty much a ghost. So psychologically, as you say, you asked this question. So I have, how I learned in a very young age, is that quickly I became more of an Indian. Like, I spoke the local language, the Lanka, the accent, and of course in Chennai they speak Tamil, but it's Indian Tamil. And then I spoke the local accent, and then I, kind of integrated and kind of created a virtual identity for myself, which has a huge impact in psychological when you're a different person outside and you're, inside is a different person. And it kept happening, even in job. They would give me a job, and in 2 months they would say, okay, you have to resign because someone told that you are Sri Lankan. Of course I told I'm a Sri Lankan, but things like that.
Wow.
And then
that is, I'm sorry if you don't mind, that is very heartbreaking because I'm being myself refugee, and one thing I just want to contrast what you said, that was easier to be in a war zone because it's your country, you knew how to handle that and deal with that. But being so much more difficult when you became refugee and came out of your country. And I can attest the same thing with me. It's like, escaping former Yugoslavia, specifically, Bosnia and Herzegovina, then being in Croatia, then temporary for short period of time in Slovenia, then going through Eastern Europe to Sweden. And why I'm bringing all that up is so many things came up, and I was just like blown away. Because refugees, guys, are not creating by refugees' choice. Find me one refugee in the world that says, I wanted to be refugee and I chose to be the refugee. Refugees are created by 2 instances only. Environmental issues where people had to be displaced and seek help, like we had tsunamis and national big huge disasters that are environmentally related. But most of the refugees that are created in the world, even today, guys, are by the wars and conflicts that leaders are unwilling to solve in different ways. So when we have this pushback with the refugees and stigmas, and you guys have to also think about it, what is the root cause of that? And how often on sweat on somebody's work, like Ara, who worked so hard, who probably was not equally paid, who was underpaid, or how many times I also missed paycheck and I tried to work under the table also because the system doesn't allow you to make money, but you can't survive on that, right? So you're trying to be very resourceful. You're trying to leverage your intelligence. You're trying to learn your language, as you were mentioning, dialect that is Indian, so you can blend in and all of that. But also the journey that continue after you left India. So I just want you guys to understand the magnitude. So when people say, oh, we're not smart, we don't have a DNA to learn the language, or we cannot really travel unless it's English-speaking country, or I can really understand that. Actually, you can if you open your mind to understand. And right now, we cannot be closed-minded because the world right now that we're living in, it's so interconnected. So I just want you guys to really pause and reflect, and please ask a question of Ara, because he is sharing something very, very profound. So please continue.
Thank you. I mean, as you said, as a something to refugees, it's not our choice. I tried 6 times in 10 years. Went to the airport. I asked them, please deport me back to Sri Lanka. 6 times I was at the airport with my luggage and loaded into the flight, and I had my passport. Please just deport me back. And there was this. The problem is they didn't let me live, and they didn't let me leave. You know?
It's just like it's a torture. It's a psychological torture. That is awful, because I experienced psychological torture myself and manipulation, and a lot of times people feel like. And I used to be part of the torture rehabilitation center. And as I said, over 120 countries, closely listening from people every single day and doing intakes and assessments of their stories. I hold that in my DNA, in my own being now today, guys, for over a decade of that type of work. So when we come to that question, that is the worst thing to do for another human being. And think about audacity and misuse of power and politics again. And then religion and ethnic groups to use as dividing factor instead of to look at beautiful intelligence, beautiful, positive human who smiles despite of everything. And one thing I want to point out for everybody that is listening, who is usually tortured, who is usually targeted? People that are positive, that are great contributors to society, they usually are influential, and they usually have, that doesn't mean influential in terms of title, but they're part of the community, people love them, respect them. And they usually have influence as a result because the people around them love them and respect them.
Yes. So anyway, it came to an end after the war ended in 2010. After 10 years, I didn't see my family, other family members for quite some time, and finally they let me go back. And so I went, and so now it comes like 10 years of trauma. So like, as a suppressed war child and oppressed refugee, and 24 years of my life has gone. And then I decided, okay, I've gone back. I met my family after many years, and a lot of relatives from all around the world also moved at the time in 2010, a year after the war ended. That's the moment, like, I was reflecting myself in, how many people would have actually gone through and going through what's happening to me. And in the meantime, among all this thing, as you said, when I was not given an opportunity, basically we didn't have any access to opportunities. We didn't have opportunities in Sri Lanka, but in India there were opportunities, but I was blocked from, having those opportunities. As I said, it's always India, you can find ways. So what I did in the time I built my own engineering service business, that I had international clients, so I can do work independent of anyone. And I learned a lot of stuffs. And as I said, I had bachelor's degree in electronics and communication, moved across India. I spoke 4 Indian languages. India has 23 official languages, and each of them are different. And many different parts of India moved across. And just to run away from the story of, where it started my own. I worked in corporate jobs, and with those struggles, every time the same. And then finally, I started my own startup, a tech startup, in 2009 for teaching, training medical doctors, which was later acquired. So by the 2010, I have gained a lot of knowledge in the technology side, building companies and product and so on. So when I went to Sri Lanka, and in 2010, I saw that there's so much thing these people they need to know. They
Yes.
and that's how we come to
So
the
much
story of
behind, right,
Dreamspace.
with technology and
Mhm.
infrastructure of the country to give sustainability, but also progressive wage so
Mhm.
that people can really survive and thrive, right?
Exactly. So
Socioeconomically.
the country has 30 years of war is like putting a country probably in 100 years backwards. And so we need to solve this problem in a rapid way, not just wait for the traditional way of solving this. So that's what I'm here. I'm just want to tell about one of my organization that I co-founded, is Dream Space Academy. Maybe, yeah, Isabel can show that. And so what I did, so yeah, as I said, when I went back to Sri Lanka, I saw that the huge socioeconomic crisis and environmental crisis, because when there's a war, especially in a warfare like a guerrilla warfare, the rebels were guerrilla warfare in jungle, so they have to burn the jungle and stuffs like that and so on. And I saw like a huge these two issues, and still all the international aid organizations, as you can imagine, USAID, UK, German aid, everyone was existing in the country for 30 years, and still the fundamental problems were not solved. So
Hmm.
I saw that, okay, I don't want to be yet another charity or someone who is coming out of Sri Lanka, who left Sri Lanka and now just coming back and giving money or something like that. And then I saw that, okay, now we have really local challenges, and then locals should solve the local challenges, because all these decades of international aid, locals were not used in solving the challenge, but they were used in deploying the solutions which were developed by someone sitting like us now in a privileged world in global north. And these people who were involved in solving those problems didn't know much of the local context, so the solutions are not really sustainable. They work for some period of time and not you know things like that. So I said, okay, I want to start an organization as a community innovation center. It's not a community center, but an innovation center that should solve the local challenges. And with those solving challenges, we really build our capacity. That's why we call it this challenge-based learning. And we want to target mainly, as I said, as I know, we formed it as a non-profit social enterprise to protect the underprivileged communities and the environmental ecosystem, because they cannot, if you don't protect the environment. I mean, today is a good day for America because the Paris Agreement will be rejoined. And we thought that protecting that, you cannot sustain, you cannot sustain anything. Since we are
Brilliant.
talking, yeah, we are talking about very complex challenges, not just like some, simple things that a lot of
Those
organizations they
basic
give
stuff
like.
that usually people focus on when they're dealing with post-war situation in the country.
Yeah, majority of the organization would do like humanitarian, logistic infrastructure empowerment, rural empowerment. But this has been happening for decades, and we need to solve this problem in different ways. So that's how we, like at Dream Space, we have two kind of verticals. As a social mission, where we are doing a lot of social focused work, community building, well-being, advocate, peace building, and the main one is our personal empowerment. At the same time, we also want to self-sustain ourselves, so that for that we need to generate businesses around our social work that can actually feed our social mission. So today I'll just tell you a little bit more about personalized empowerment, because this is exactly what I wish I would have. I would be happy if I had such empowerment program, because I was lost till 24 years. And so what we do in this program is an 18 months or 1.5 years plus empowerment program, kind of an incubation to build a capacity of a person as well as an organization for a person. So I'll tell you with one of the story, one of our candidates. So usually starts with the candidate discovery. So where we look for very motivated youngsters, under 20, most of them. So in this case, Sanju, when he was in school, he was about protecting the environmental ecosystem of and then he was, after he finished his school, he walked across the island from the north to the south of the Sri Lanka, so through forest and jungle for several days to promote national peace. And he got an opportunity to climb Elbrus. It's the peak of the continental Europe. It's in Georgia, Russian region, and he's the first Sri Lankan Tamil teenager to climb this mountain, the peak. So this is the moment we identify, okay, someone is having that motivation to solve this environmental and the social problem. but the candidate doesn't have any access to, advanced education or something like that. And then when we bring the candidate into a Dream Space Academy, we call it Dream Space Life Cycle. But within this stage, the candidate is trained in multidisciplinary workshops. So it starts with, storytelling to photography to biotechnology. We do like electronics, mechanics,
Brilliant.
software. Every knowledge that you need to solve a complex challenges is what we give as a challenge based learning. Nothing is subject here. And in this stage, we identify the talent, its potential, and technical and non-technical also, business modeling, financial modeling, social media, like in digital marketing, marketing campaign, everything we give because we want to build them to become entrepreneurs,
Mm.
with that solving that social and environmental challenge. Once we have identified the candidates, the real talent, even if you train multidisciplinary, they are good in one or two things. Once we identify that, we bring them into the third stage. It's a very special stage. We go through a lot of psychological mentorship to identify what does the candidate want to do in his or her life. What is the lifelong domain of the project. So in his case, even though his parents wanted him to become lawyers, after going through several sessions, we identify he really wants to be in nature, to hike, to climb, to dive. And especially, this is our hometown in Sri Lanka. This is where we were born, grew up,
So
and so on.
beautiful photo.
Yes, so it's in the middle of the Indian Ocean. As you see, it's a small dot, and it's all the way straight to Indonesia from our hometown, or to Australia. And we are surrounded by large mass of water and backwater in the ocean. And so we saw that okay, a lot of things have changed in the year after the tsunami hit in 2014. A lot of backwater species have changed, and also a lot of things happening still now, like poaching the sharks and the manta rays for the fin soups and so on. So we said that okay, what if we want to, if this is his domain, we need to solve some immediate challenge in that domain, is to protect this water ecosystem. So then, based on that, the candidate identifies the challenge, the local immediate challenge, and then he started developing. This is some form of an submarine. It's an autonomous underwater vehicle, which can measure a lot of things in the backwater, in the ocean. It can be a chemical like nitrate and phosphate that's coming from the agricultural land, or it can go and take photographs of the corals or the manta ray, the seagrasses, and so on. So at this stage, all the training that we have given, the candidate is putting that into an innovation that solves an immediate challenge for us. We don't do any luxurious problem solving. It's everything is a very fundamental problem solving. And at that stage, candidate is also trained to do the storytelling and fundraising. And the candidate puts the whole story in a proposal, and we send this to diaspora, Sri Lankan diaspora families who are wealthy somewhere else, and to support us, because we need a lot of money to buy this material and the train, all those stuffs and tools and so on. And they support based on the candidate. They support based on the project. It's not like they
Some
don't
projects
support.
are very valuable, right, for
Yeah,
whole
yeah,
country, and they're transformational. They can be patents. They can be also leveraged and utilized in other parts of the world. So it's a great
exactly.
income producing. But I love that you call it Dream Space Academy and showing us what the process is, because you're giving chance for people, specifically youths and young children that are also affected by the war or being part of the war, to really start dreaming again what's possible, right? You unleashing that power within, and that's
Yeah.
amazing energy and creativity. So I love it.
Yes. So that's very important thing. These young people, all of them under 20, they should also in this stage they should also learn how difficult it is to raise a fund. This is what they are trained in: storytelling, proposal writing, and they get the fund, but they are part of the process, and they know that once that is, and why these people also the diaspora families. If you look in many countries, diaspora doesn't support give back to their country after 20, 30 years. There are many reasons in global south, because I have worked a lot of organization around in global south, because one of my social enterprise which I'm part of operates in 40 countries in global south. The thing is, people, they get cheated. If you think that you're supporting someone, and in global south someone will be actually exploiting you. But in our case, it's never the money doesn't come to our organization or us. It's based on exactly the project and to the candidate, and it's very specific. So this way, they are seeing they really see something useful than sending money to an organization to start from scratch. And that's how we attract a lot of diaspora family to support us. And in Sanjeevan's case, a Canadian family supported this, and the next stage. So even though we have a lot of in-house capacity of multiple things, we don't have, we miss something because every project is different. In Sanjeevan's case, he really wanted, and then after doing this project, he decided that he want to become an ocean marine mammal biologist, and he needs also a lot of knowledge on. He never been to college, he's just under 20. So what we do at that stage is we send a lot of experts or scientists from the global north to Sri Lanka to be with us and to train the candidate on the topic, and give crash course kind of a training in 5 to 6 months. Or we send the candidate to an international organization where they can get trained, in the short term. Why we have to do this? Recently we saw Martin Luther King's, memorial. As he said that if someone started in a race 300 years after others, you need to really run fast. So we cannot go with the traditional education of bachelor's, master's, PhD, and then industry, and then 20 years, and they come back to innovate. It's not going to happen to us. So that's why we have to do everything in a fast way to enable them whatever they need to. Yeah, need to know.
Quicker income, impact.
Exactly.
And income.
Because I cannot make sure that I cannot retain them for 20 years. It's not going to happen in that zone. They will get easily distracted, become some labor worker in Middle East. Easily this happens. So in Sanjeevan's case, we proposed this whole story to a place called Plokan. It's in the middle of Atlantic Ocean. This is one of its kind deep sea exploration center, world like movies, Jaws. So you see this building, there are people inside in the middle of ocean, and they have all those devices and equipment infrastructure to do underwater or deep sea exploration. And as you see, there's the glider that they have. The glider costs 200,000 euros, and our glider costs 2,000 euros. And it's open source, accessible, and for anyone similar, like us, could access it as an educational purpose. But these are industrial gliders, goes from Gran Canaria to Bahamas and comes back in a single charge. So that's why the gliders are different. They're not drones. They're gliding with the ocean waves. So they can do expeditions for 6 months. Like this one can do a 6-month expedition on a single charge.
That is unbelievable. Yeah. That is absolutely amazing.
And yeah, so he was supposed to go there, but because of Corona, he didn't go. They moved the program, and it's still part of the island, belongs to Spain. And but ultimately he will go there. So this is a stage where they get training. But anyway, there are a lot of experts training him online and preparing for a lot of things. The last stage is, so we already prepared him for the last stage. The last stage, the candidate is trained on elevator pitching to business modeling, financial modeling, organizational structures, whatever that he needs to know about forming an organization. And he went and pitched this idea in several incubation programs, and he already got some funds and from UNDP and different programs. And he also presents at the last stage, the candidate presents a solution to stakeholders. So for example, Asha is is the only marine mammal biologist of Sri Lanka. She protects these blue whales of the northern Indian Ocean, and they have to dive a lot. And the solution like this could solve their diving. They don't have to dive. It can.
And the risks associated with diving for the humans, right? Because it's just so much that is happening.
Yeah. And then this is the moment the solution is being tested, with the piloted, with the validated by the stakeholders. And at that stage, we graduate the candidate. It's usually 1.5 years plus. And then candidate goes on to build his or her own organization, build a team, and build an industry, a micro industry, which doesn't exist in a country. Sri Lanka is known for tea and tourism. There's no deep sea exploration research in Sri Lanka, as you might see in Western world. And so he's creating that industry and then enabling he said that he did a lot of survey, a lot of people, they go and study oceanology, and they become a clerk in a bank, because there's nothing that they could do in Sri Lanka. So he creates the candidates, triggers that industry where a lot of youngsters can, follow his or her own, steps to be a part of that. And that is how our empowerment. So that's why we say that it's a personalized empowerment program. And I would just quickly show a few more things. Yeah, so as I said, we have like a lot of labs, different labs training, different candidates. We have candidates, some of the there we have different type of groups from age of 6 to different age groups, and we have several labs and currently like around 14 labs we have planned, and then we teach on challenge-based learning. As I said, Sanjeevan is not the only candidate, and there are many of them. And one of them, I would say, this is Sanjeevan's elder brother. He has a properly functioning organization. He's graduated already. And this girl is 16 years old girl. We identified her in 2020. She's coming from a borderline village, like extremely jungle village. They don't have access to much stuff. And what she's doing is basically she's grinding. One of the work grinding seeds of the java plant to make a filter, biofilter, to remove cadmium pollution from water. So a 16-year-old girl sitting in a jungle thinking about cadmium pollution, which is
high, insanely awesome.
Yeah. And that's how when we hear about these kind of candidates, and then we go and we spoke to her and we brought her in, we did her in scientific writing, and we presented her to the Swedish International Water Institute, and she was chosen as one of the, and from 40 countries, she was chosen last year as a junior Stockholm Junior Water Prize. Usually happening in Stockholm in the town hall where they give the Nobel Prize. They get this training and the prize, but last year, unfortunately, she has to do online. So there's so many candidates like that, and her story is again proving that, for example, if Sri Lanka asked some international aid organization to solve this cadmium pollution problem in Sri Lanka, they would have chosen some inorganic advanced nanotechnology company, which is spending millions of dollars building a filter, or so to say, prototyping, or just doing the research. But this girl, being in her environment, she knew that she could find alternatives in the nature, in her environment, and then she created a solution. So that's what the locals should solve, the local challenges. And like that, we have so many other things and community building activities and so on. And so in a way that to outline, so Dream Space, we are basically, the story started itself very early in 2013. This is the elephant is one part of our story. And there's one borderline village. We adopted 104 kids. They have severe problem with the wild elephant, human-elephant conflict. 85 people in 2019 died by human-elephant conflict. And then we started
explaining what human element conflict it is for people that don't know.
Human-elephant conflict. So wild elephants. Wild elephant, basically humans, we build houses on places where the elephants are supposed to live, or like these villages, farming villages, they are like blocking the way that they walk
to get further and further away. Okay.
Yeah, kind of a migration. When they have a migration, and then they go crazy. This wild male elephant is always going crazy, and they attack people and they kill. So elephant is a matriarchal animal. So it's controlled by the oldest women in the group. And young male goes crazy and leave, and
it's overcrowding their space, as we've seen a lot in other parts of the world.
Exactly, like Botswana is a very
push further wildlife and wild animals, and then we started seeing incidents due to overpopulation. But if you don't mind, I just want to quickly highlight something for again listeners and people that are watching this, guys. Ara funded this organization less than 3 years ago. And as a former child, he's born in a war zone. And as a former child's refugee, and someone who lived on his own in foreign country, someone who then figured out ways to educate himself, who succeeded on so many levels against all odds, but with his insane perseverance and desire to make an impact and difference. not only for himself, but obviously for community. He's serving, he's supporting, and he's succeeding. And look at what he accomplished for less than 3 years. He's disrupting some of the most major global issues with his amazing talent that he's financially investing in through different scholarships and programs, through innovative approaches that are scaled down, that are actually fragment of the cost that so many other countries already may have or propose to do, and showing what is possible to do rapidly faster. So that not only he's innovating, he's also disrupting, and on top of that, he's doing very agile method that he is very quickly bringing that to the market and testing it out. So it's not like theoretical applications that may or may not work. And on the end of the day, he's giving tremendously back to his community, to his home country. So guys, when you say you have to have a money, no, you don't necessarily have to have a money, you have to have a will. You don't have to be waiting to be multimillionaire or to give you access, but to give your intelligence, to give your knowledge, your connections, your relationships, and desire to make an impact. That is what he is doing. And why I want him to share this powerful journey. Please continue, Ara.
Yes, I think, as I said, the most a lot of people. I read. I don't know if it's a true story, but a lot of people, they think that they have to get rich to give back, and I don't. The
Very
biggest thing
common.
that you can, yeah, I think the biggest thing that you can give to someone is giving them a perspective, and that perspective, access to perspective,
Knowledge.
is something that they're missing, and they want human support. And like as I said, when we adopted this school with 104 kids, but where it's hugely human elephant conflict zone. And when we went there, it's like electric fences everywhere, and they don't have, it's very difficult zone for the people living there. And when we asked them to kind of make maybe if I have this photo also, if you want to see that kind of community, anyway. So it's, yeah, as you said, we are building a lot of community work, and so you see that we are in different. We have in jungle, in the town, and the beach, and this is this community of kids. And when we asked them, pretty much 1/3 of the family, the kid, someone in their family were killed by the elephant. We asked them to draw the ideal world for them, and some kids had a painting where elephant was there inside the drawing.
Yeah.
And it was shocking for me, because I thought that they want to just kill these elephants, and just
Please
and
don't.
there's electric fences everywhere.
Uh-huh.
And the true part of the story is that 415 elephants died in 2019 by humans in Sri Lanka,
That is
and using like electric fence, poisons, traps, and cracks, landmines, and these animals and these people were
super
given solutions.
intelligent. Oh,
Exactly. They were not, these solutions were given to them without really understanding the environmental context. And these people, they really want to coexist with these organisms, these animals. And so what we really want to do, so as I said, we do a lot of non-scientific also work, and we want to just empower them so that they themselves can co-create their dreams and their coexistence. And that is what we want to do. It's not that I should tell them that this is how you solve your problem with the elephant, but just feel, connected with them. And we give all the tools and perspective and training and whatever they need, and they should come up with the solution. And like that, every candidate we have, they have different challenges. As I said, in some, Sri Lanka is very different regions, and someone is about, for example, some people, they don't have water in their region, and because it's dry, and they want to solve that problem. And some people come and say that there's so much of water, it's flooding all the time, and they need to solve that problem. So when people are when people are the victims of the problem, they make the better solution, than someone who is not actually the victim of
it's affecting you personally. You spot on. And that is what I also want you guys to really take on it, because we always have to start with our own first communities and things that bother us, that are not done right or need to improve, because that's where all the magic happens. And that's where the passion and drives. That's why you don't give up till you solve it, right? That's why they're so committed. That's why you have exceptional results.
Exactly. So I think that's what I know. It's already an hour, so this is our story. If anyone wants to support us, you can support in many ways. The fundamental thing is a human support. We need people who can talk to these young. We have hundreds of them, with different challenges. They just want to have an perspective what's possible. They may not know how you live in your own country and what you do, and telling about that itself, giving them a confidence. And then, of course, if you can support us with opportunities and connections and in some impact investments, or like project collaboration or your service. We, as I said, a lot of, we have in-house capacity, and we outsource this capacity as a service, so that some cash flow can support our social mission. So we have, like, software development, electronics development, mechanics, in biotech, in storytelling, photography, videography, all these capacities. Like a corporate company, we have all this in-house capacity, but we are a non-profit social enterprise. And if you can outsource or give some of these tasks to these kids, they could do it. Of course, you can expect that as a prototype or a proof of concept of your ideas. And so we are open for any form of support that you can do. And yeah, thanks, Izabela, for this wonderful opportunity to combine many different stories into one talk.
Absolutely. And one thing, what I'm going to, guys, do when the recording, when the live is done, recording will be on 3 different platforms, and I will definitely add the link so you can see it on Facebook, on LinkedIn, obviously on my wall, as well in my YouTube channel. But the beauty about this is, I just wanted to really reflect what we actually experienced this last hour. I'm sure everybody's experience will be slightly different, but for people that never experienced any of those major life-changing pivotal points in life that came from pain, from suffering, from unspeakable. I just wanted to say, knowing that half of the world is already being affected, it's possible to happen to everyone. So more and more, we also start paying closer attention to our own communities, but also ways how we can serve other communities, how we can contribute our skill, talents, and everything else. And how can we serve? As Ara said, we can serve in so many ways: financially, by giving the time, but supporting youth. But given the fact that youth more than ever needs great leaders, great role models, great people to talk to, that genuinely will take interest in them and give some really amazing advice, and creating these collaborations that are organic, that are based on just pure passion and desires. Guys, opportunities are endless, and impact that can really echo for generations to come. It is so most satisfying thing. That is how legacies of major people is being created. And I want to ask you, thought provoke you here, what do you want to be remembered by? And what do you want your legacy to be? Another plaque on a major building, or the name on the street? Or do you want it to be remembered by phenomenal human being that you've been, that served and support and succeed with others as you're succeeding in your own adventures and ventures in life and business? So again, Ara, thank you so much for joining us. I know it's evening and you're coming and joining us from Berlin. I wish I can be in Europe right now. Enjoy the gorgeous city as much as you can during the lockdown. But also wanted to know that Ara is also insanely creative engineer and mind, that also it's already pushing with artificial intelligence, machine learning, analytics, data. The guy can nail the data about anything. And I'm super excited to really see what he's going to do next and how I can also contribute, because this is just the start and beginning of amazing, beautiful relationships. So my point is, pick up the phone, reach out to people you don't know anything about, put yourself uncomfortably comfortable to actually learn something and network. Right now, we have more than ever great opportunities to do that. Okay, guys, wishing you all the best, and Ara, absolute pleasure to have you today.
Thank you so much, Isabel, for this opportunity. And I think this discussion can lead to some, truthful, purposeful collaborations and networking, and anything. There are a lot of ways people reach out, and as we are also ready to give a lot, because a lot of other communities from Indonesia, Brazil, and Kenya, they are reaching out. Can we tell them how to create that? How to create
How
an
to
organization
replicate the
like that.
model, how to replicate
Yeah,
a model, that is also going,
exactly.
and,
Yeah,
and how to consult and advise, how to
yeah,
create other alliances and partnership between continents, between the countries
yes,
and like-minded individuals. So my point is, guys, you didn't even scratch the surface most likely of possibilities, how great, amazing you are, and how much you can give to others. So giving
exactly.
is not just monetary, guys. So figure out how you can give every single day, at least to one person. Let's challenge each other on that. How can we give back in one meaningful, genuine, heartfelt way to one another? Okay, guys, talk
Thank
to
you
you
so
soon,
much.
sweetheart. Let's keep in touch, sweetheart. Great having you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.